Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM. My name is Beatrice. The news is also live on Kesme 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Presidency urges Parliament to desist from any attempt to transmit the controversial anti-LGBTQI bill to the President for assent due to the pending suits at the Supreme Court challenging the constitutionality of the bill. Also on this program, Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana is warning that the country stands the risk of completely running out of antiretrovirals and other critical medications due to the government's inability to facilitate clearance of health commodities stuck at the various ports. We have some other stories from across the country for you. Do stay with us. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, the presidency has officially requested Parliament to refrain from transmitting the Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill to President Akufo-Addo for his assent. In a letter addressed to Parliament on Monday, March 18, and signed by the Secretary to the President, Nana Asante-Bediatuo, the presidency said that the President can only take a decision on the fate of the bill if the two pending applications against the constitutionality of it are determined by the Supreme Court. Two private citizens have gone to the Apex Court seeking, among others, to halt the passage of the bill on grounds of its unconstitutionality. In the letter, the presidency contends that it would be improper for President Akufo-Addo, for Parliament rather, to proceed with transmitting the bill to the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, for any action until the matters before the court are addressed. This, it said, was also based on the advice of the Attorney General for the President not to take any action regarding the bill until the issues raised by the ongoing legal suit are resolved by the Supreme Court. And we'll shortly be speaking to a lawyer on the understanding of this very letter issued by the presidency. But before we do that, there have been some reactions coming through on X and other social media platforms. We'll bring you those reactions, but like I said, I'm joined by legal practitioner Yaw Berima, and let me remind you, Yaw Berima is one of the, okay, so let's just connect to him. He joins us live on the line. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
First of all, what do you make of the choice of words in the letter addressed to the Clerk of Parliament by the Secretary to the President?
The President is by law enjoined to rule this country in accordance with the law. The law is that whenever there is an action in court, anybody with knowledge of that action is not supposed to conduct or engage in conduct or activity that will prejudice the fair hearing of that case in court. In this particular instance, Parliament has passed a bill and it is awaiting presidential assent to become law. Before the President can give his assent, two persons have taken the matter to court, seeking to stop that bill from being, in one case, from being sent to the President, and seeking also to stop the President from giving assent to that bill on grounds of whatever. The Attorney General, who is the chief legal advisor to the government, to the president, if I may be specific, has written to the president acknowledging that he has received those two actions and advising the president not to do anything pending the determination of those cases in court. So, by law, the president is not supposed to do anything that should prejudice those actions in court.
Senior, you are a senior lawyer, and obviously yes, when you listen to some other lawyers, there is no specific law or provision in our constitution that bars the president from signing such a bill that has been put before him, indeed. And if you also look at the constitutional provisions guarding such bills and the final assent, there are specific provisions that say that when a bill is passed in Parliament, the president has to receive it within specific days. If he doesn't want to respond to it, he has to write to Parliament and other relevant authorities to indicate why he won't. So there are people who are arguing that he's in breach of our own constitution.
I am not too sure about the propriety of that letter from the President's Executive Secretary to the Speaker of Parliament, to the Clerk of Parliament. I'm not too sure about that. The Clerk will be performing his constitutional duty, if I may put it that way. And so to the extent that the Executive Secretary is seeking to direct the Clerk not to send it, I'm not too sure that I agree with that process.
So you stand by the fact that the constitutional provisions that allow Parliament to send such a bill to the presidency within that time frame should have been respected, and therefore the Secretary is wrong?
To the extent that the Executive Secretary is seeking to direct the Clerk as to how to do his work, I think that I should agree with you. But if I look at the letter, it is stating that one of the reliefs that is being sought by one of the parties in one of the cases is that the Clerk should not present the bill so passed to the president. And so the secretary is saying that the president is not going to take any action, cannot take any action on it, and therefore the Clerk should not send the letter, seek to send the bill to. As I have said, I'm not too sure about the propriety of that action, because when the bill is sent to the president has every right to assent, or if he does not intend to assent, to explain to Parliament for such and such reasons I am not unable to give assent to the bill. And so to that extent, I'm not too sure whether perhaps that letter is not, to the extent that it is directing the Clerk not to send the bill, to attempt to send the bill to the president, whether perhaps it is not superfluous.
Counsel, we have established that the president's ability to sign, or should I say willingness to sign or not, is rather discretionary than constitutional. Would you agree with critics who would say that the president is being selective in what he chooses to assent to, because in that same vein, when the country needed that money through e-levy, the president signed it? That was despite the minority's decision to challenge the constitutionality of the quorum bit in Parliament in court. I will just read two of the reliefs that the minority members sought, which was led by Haruna Idrisu, then the minority leader at the time, supported by Samokuja Tablakwa Dafiamapo as well. C and D of the reliefs they sought. The C said a declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of Article 104(1) of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, the passing of the Electronic Transactions Levy, e-levy, by the 137 members of Parliament of the Majority Caucus present in Parliament on the 29th of March 2022, without the requisite quorum number of 138 members of Parliament present in Parliament, is null and void and of no legal effect. D. An order of the Honourable Court setting aside the passing of the Electronic Transactions Levy, e-levy, by the 137 members of Parliament of the Majority Caucus present in Parliament on the 29th of March 2022 as a nullity. Interestingly, we are in March having the same discussion. Would you say that the President is being selective in what he decides to assent to?
That's interesting. In the current case, the reliefs that are being sought are seeking to restrain the President from giving assent to the bill. If I remember right, in the e-levy thing, they were seeking a declaratory judgment without necessarily, and they were asking the court to so declare. In this particular case, the President is being sought to be injuncted from giving assent to the bill. To that extent, I wouldn't say that the reliefs are necessarily the same.
And so you wouldn't agree with the argument that the President is being selective? Especially when you've also said in this interview that the President was not under the President wasn't prevented from signing the bill if he so wanted to.
In this particular action, they are saying the court should restrain the President from giving assent to the bill. If I look at the reliefs that have been read now in relation to the E-level thing, they were seeking a declaratory judgment. To the extent that this one is seeking to restrain the President from doing a certain course of action, and the other one being merely a declaratory judgment, I do not think that the reliefs are necessarily the same.
What would you say to those who would also argue that the President is perhaps playing politics with this and trying to play semantics with the law as well?
Oh, that's a question of opinion.
Having made that point, though, what do you think are the possible ramifications of such communication from the presidency to Parliament?
I would rather not have sent that letter. I would rather not have sent the letter.
Why?
That communication, because with or without that letter, the President, has a certain duty not to do anything that prejudices the fair hearing of any application or case before the court. So I do not think that, given the tone of the letter and everything, I do not think that it was necessary to have even sent it.
You think it undermines Parliament? Because over here in our governance we have separation of powers, in as much as we also respect checks and balances. You think it undermines Parliament?
A real risk, perception-wise, of the Executive Secretary seeking to tell the Clerk of Parliament what to do in relation to the performance of his duty. I would have, avoided it.
Let me find out from you before you go. You're familiar with the processes of Parliament. What do you expect Parliament to do in this instance?
The clerk of Parliament has a duty when a bill is passed to send the bill to the president for his action one way or the other. That is a duty that is not discretionary as far as the clerk is concerned.
So should a clerk call the bluff of the presidency and still go ahead and send the letter?
That is his duty. That is his duty. That letter by the, should I say, the executive secretary to the president cannot necessarily be binding on the clerk.
So you would expect the clerk to send the letter anyway, or the bill anyway?
That his duty. When a bill is passed, the clerk has a duty, to convey the bill to the president. He does that. That does not mean that the president should necessarily give assent to it. And so I have a problem when we are being called to split hairs on this issue, whether the clerk should send it or not. The bill has been passed. When it is passed, the president should be informed, notified, and that is the duty of the clerk of Parliament. And so the fact that he sends it does not mean that the president should give assent to it. And I would not have any problem at all if the bill is sent to the president, for the president to react any way that he wants.
All right, we'll have to end it here. Thank you very much. And that was legal practitioner Yao Berima. Thank you for sharing those views with us. Well, there has been a swift reaction to the president's letter, like I told you earlier. Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, one of the prime MPs supporting this bill, and a proponent, I just told you, of this controversial bill, Samuel Nate George, has described the letter from the presidency as shameful and disgraceful. In a post on X, the MP said the president's promises are mere rhetorics. And I'll just read that bit to you. He says, "Dear at Nana Akufo-Addo, this is not just shameful and disgraceful, but speaks to the fact that when it comes to your words and promises, they are mere fluff and flowery English. Once again, you prove to the Ghanaian people that you are not to be trusted." And we'll be going to Parliament very shortly and bring you some more reactions from the House. We do understand that the former leader of the minority, Haruna Idrisu, has been addressing the press, urging the Clerk of Parliament to disregard a letter written to him by the Executive Secretary to the President, requesting that Parliament desist from transmitting the controversial anti-LGBTQ bill. Haruna Idrisu is describing this very letter and action from the presidency as a threat to the country's democracy.
But I'm unable to sleep. And I'm unable to sleep because this is a monumental threat to Ghana's democracy and a monumental threat to Parliament as an institution. By Article 93, we are clothed with legislative authority and legislative mandate. This letter only reflects President Nana Addo Dankwa's quest of predominance over other organs of state. That is unacceptable, and that must be fought by all persons who love democracy and who cherish the principles and values of the 1992 Constitution. The framers of our Constitution endowed Ghana with separation of powers, the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, division of powers. It endowed us that Parliament shall be responsible for law making. President Nana Addo, first of all, politically, what power does the President Secretary have writing to the Clerk of Parliament, and not the President himself writing directly to the Speaker of Parliament, as is required of our standing order, so that officially this can be read as communication from the President. So ideally, this paper means nothing and should be ignored by the clerk, because communication to Parliament must be communication signed by the President, addressed to the Speaker of Parliament, as is required of our standing order, whether old or new. 2, yes, there is a matter before court, but I'm also a trained lawyer. An attempt to seek an injunction is not the same thing as an injunction. An attempt, I'm seeking an injunction, does not operate the same way as an injunction has been so granted by the court, even if it is an interlocutory injunction. But more importantly, Parliament cannot be enjoined not to perform its lawful function as the legislature of Ghana, clothed under Article 93, responsible for legislation. No organ of state.
And you had Haruna Idrisu. He's a member of Parliament for Tamale South, also a former minority leader of the House. We'll bring you some more reactions to this very decision from the presidency. But you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. My name is Beatrice. When we come back, we'll bring you some more. Just stay with us.
Freezer, yeah, diaba. Adama for diaba. Freezer. Adama. What's the mention? Adama. Metimosua, my sorry. Can you know? Obo Moasia. I do for no be a munum and san last night. I tell what we did. Adama for Adama, who said, yeah, the Adruba Cope, a ship we be a high technology. I could for freezer. When Kwan, and once open your 15 letters. No fugum, what's ya, no fugum. What the bus here, for you be any of us, you, I could say, over Timono. Then we sure say, woman shown task here. Then what's enough for now? Freezer, power up a day. Freezer, Basia, a person does so among Amoniaji. Omtina me, Miwasika, Omtina me, but you may not do some doom. Adama, without Adama, no queer. Adama, you can't resist.
Ubenya Adama West Africa for a dream, or the baby I tongue cry who made you. I say, Kayone Kinkai in Choya, a dream.
And you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. Thank you very much for staying. Let's cross over to Parliament and bring you some more reactions. Duke Mensah Opoku is in Parliament to tell us more about how the MPs are reacting to the letter from the presidency on the LGBTQI bill. Duke, what can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you that the reaction obviously
I'm sorry to interrupt, Duke. Your line is not so clear. If you could kindly reposition yourself so we are able to hear you well.
Can you hear me?
Excellent. Please go ahead.
Yes, I'm saying so. My former minority leader is the one who's speaking publicly, addressing the press, indicating that he believes that the position that has been taken by the president is very distasteful. It's disrespectful of Parliament as an equal arm of government, and he's asked the Clerk of Parliament to disregard the letter that has been written to him by the Executive Secretary of the President, indicating that Parliament has the Executive Presidency, or the President has no right to communicate to Parliament in that manner in the exercise of their functions as stipulated in the Constitution. Meanwhile, there are others also in the majority who have the view that the presidency is well within its rights to communicate the issues the way they have communicated to them, especially when there are court matters involved. So that's the shape that it has taken. What we do know also is that it's taking a different shape and twist in relation to the approval of the president's appointees for various ministerial positions. Initially, the committee report that had been laid on the floor of Parliament was to approve them by consensus. But we are told that as a measure of, reaction, and also as a means to punish the president for reacting or for writing the letter that has been sent to the clerk, they will be withdrawing their support for his nominees for various ministerial appointments. So they would be asking for the ministerial nominees to be approved by majority decision and not necessarily by consensus. And that could withdraw the kind of bipartisan support that these ministerial nominees.
So that's like a tit-for-tat kind of game emerging over this very issue there. Haruna Idrisu obviously told the clerk to disrespect that letter from the presidency. But aside from that word, what is Parliament as a whole going to do, led by the minority, really?
He intends to raise this matter on the floor of Parliament when the Speaker of Parliament himself, Abamba, when he's out of the jurisdiction, when he comes back and he takes his seat, he intends to raise this matter on the floor of Parliament so that Parliament as a house can take a decision, pass a resolution, which will be communicated to the President.
Duke, briefly, before you go, we do understand that this, the Electoral Commission is supposed to be in the House today. Can you tell us what's up?
Yes, so the Electoral Commission chairperson and her lieutenant are going to be in Parliament, but unfortunately they are not going to be appearing before the committee of the whole or the plenary or the entire Parliament. Their meeting has been restricted to just meeting the leadership. That is the front bench of the majority and the front bench of the minority. They are the only ones who are going to be in that meeting with the Electoral Commission chairperson. We are told that they've had to change the arrangement because of scheduling issues and because the plenary has to complete critical business in the House before they go on recess tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Duke Menso-Opoku reporting live from Parliament. The Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana is warning that the country stands the risk of completely running out of antiretrovirals and some other critical medications for tuberculosis and malaria by May 2024 due to the government's inability to facilitate the clearance of health commodities worth some $45 million still stuck at the various ports. The health commodities include malaria rapid diagnostic test kits, insecticide-treated nets, antiretrovirals, among others sourced from the Global Fund. This delay in clearance, according to the Pharmaceutical Society, is because the Global Fund, as part of its policy, does not finance taxes and levies in clearing the commodities from the port. And we'll be bringing you some more from the Executive Secretary of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana in our subsequent bulletins. But that's how we wrap up the news here on 3FM. Our top stories. Presidency urges Parliament to desist from any attempt to transmit the controversial anti-LGBTQI bill to the President for assent due to the pending suits at the Supreme Court challenging the constitutionality of the bill. The minority is reacting, saying this is a threat to democracy. Bring you some more. Also, Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana is warning that the country stands the risk of completely running out of antiretrovirals and some other critical medications due to the government's inability to facilitate clearance of health commodities stuck at the various ports. My name is Beatrice. Thank you very much for joining us today. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Coming up shortly is Business Daily. Stay with us.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily. Coming up, Ghana's cedi named third worst performing currency in Africa, according to Bloomberg. We'll bring you details of that. Also, results from Ghana Business Tracker by the Ghana Statistical Service show high level of sales vulnerability. We'll bring you details of that as well.
Businesses can go for loans and invest because you cannot sure about the next 6 months. Whether you're going to mix, whether you're going to cover your costs and all that.
Plus, Ghana Shippers Authority assures no charges for service disruptions due to internet outages.
Cost is not supposed to be borne by the shipper because these costs also translate to our economy, and we should all help to, save our economy.
I am Menu Afo. We have details of these and more lined up for you. Stay with us. Thank you for your time. In our first story, analysts predict the cedi depreciation against major trading currencies may worsen, although Ghana currently finds itself under an IMF support program. The worst may not be over yet for our local currency, as Bloomberg names it third worst performing currency in Africa this year. The cedi has seen a more than 7% depreciation against the dollar, and experts fear it could worsen. Ghana has secured workouts with its domestic and official creditors and is still trying to secure a deal with Eurobond investors. The country's international reserves have improved to a 10-month high of $5.9 billion in December 2023. However, it remains insufficient to effectively support or maintain stability of the local currency. This year's elections also pose potential risks to the stability of the cedi. Away from that, results from Wave 4 of the Ghana Business Tracker by the Ghana Statistical Service indicates high level of sales vulnerability, though most firms have recovered from the COVID-19 pandemic. Anthony Kakra is head of Department Industrial Statistics at Ghana Statistical Service.
High uncertainty in terms of business expectations. It affects it tells us that business are able to invest in risk. There will be more risk and do a lot of investment because it minimizes the extent to which businesses can go for loans and invest because you cannot sure about the next 6 months. Whether you're going to mix, whether you're going to cover your costs and all that. And so this is not good enough for us. We need to, as a country, do well to minimize the effect of this uncertainty. And this uncertainty is largely coming from high inflation, preference to receive high inflation, high taxes, show the cedi reduction in sales and all that. And so these are, and you can see that it didn't matter the size of the business. All the size of business think alike. They all think that, well, inflation is a problem, high tax is a problem, inflation is a problem. And so like there are severe variations across the sizes, which tells us that businesses themselves and this country have these challenges. And if these challenges, just at the macro level, are addressed, that the uncertainty that we're talking about in this country. And of course, if I say this minimized, they can go for more money to invest and expand and employ more and have higher GDP and all that.
That was Anthony Kakra, head of department at Industrial Statistics, Ghana Statistical Service. Now we'll shift your attention to the internet outages as government is calling for decisive action to strengthen the nation's digital infrastructure in the face of recurring disruptions to undersea telecommunication cables. These disruptions, often caused by unforeseen events, threaten to stall economic activity and disrupt essential services. Government has hinted of rolling out a program to license additional satellite internet service providers to deal with disruption to the internet.
Minister for Communication and Digitalization, Esla Osu Ekufo, says it has become necessary for more investments into new technologies to improve connectivity. Plan D, a comprehensive strategy spearheaded by the government and the National Communications Authority, proposes alternative investment strategies and a reimagining of Ghana's internet cable infrastructure. This plan emphasizes investments in diversified cable routes.
If we didn't give it 100% focus as at now, we should. And we need to look at resilient infrastructure. We need to look at climate-friendly infrastructure. We need to look at more scalable systems being put in place. And we need to look at working even closer together with the private sector. These are all takeaways that we have from this. We're doing it, but we need to scale up our effort.
Plan Z is not an option. It's a necessity to ensure uninterrupted connectivity for businesses and Ghanaians to thrive. The proposed plan will be implemented through mandatory requirements for telecommunication companies during relicensing. This ensures long-term resilience and minimizes disruptions caused by undersea cable issues. By embracing Plan Z, Ghana aspires to build a stronger, more dependable telecommunications infrastructure. This will pave the way for a future of uninterrupted connectivity, economic prosperity, and a thriving digital landscape for all Ghanaians.
Well, away from that, the Ghana Shippers Authority has assured shippers they will not be charged for disruptions caused by internet connectivity challenges. Head of Shipper Services and Trade Facilitation, Monica Josiah, spoke on behalf of the CEO during an interview with 3 Business.
The position of the authority is that no shipper should be charged if the delays are traceable to the service disruption. Meetings with the stakeholders have shown that, they agree largely that if the delays are not occasioned by the shipper, the cost is not supposed to be borne by the shipper, because these costs also translate to our economy, and we should all help to, save our economy. So I want to reiterate the authority's stance that if the costs or the delays are not occasioned by the shipper, the authority will make a case for the shipper. The authority is going to engage the relevant stakeholders to make a case for shippers whose clearance or shipment activities have been affected by the internet disruption.
You heard Monica Josiah, Head of Shipper Services and Trade Facilitation at Ghana Shippers Authority. In more stories, Project Coordinator for Waste Right Africa, Amanda Sumambe, is urging Ghanaians to embrace waste segregation, highlighting its potential to create jobs for women and improve waste collection efficiency. She points to the already existing practice of collecting used sachet and bottled water containers as a source of income for women and children.
In terms of climate change, as the case for the minimization of the use of plastic and for the recycling of plastics, in terms of agriculture, we are advocating that food waste is separated and kept in a particular bin, in terms of, that is the color green bin. This food waste can be broken down into liquid and solid compost, which will be given to female farmers in villages to help them improve and increase their yield. And when it comes to female empowerment, we've all seen women and sometimes kids going around picking plastic to resell to plastic recycling plants for some little money to make and to earn an income. So we are asking them to segregate this plastic so that these women can come around, pick up this plastic and resell for some more money, just to be able to earn a living.
Well, that was Project Coordinator for Waste Right Africa, Amanda Sumambe. And that brings us to the end of Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check out our website at 3news.com. My name is Minu Afo. Do stay tuned. Black Pasta will soon join you for Urban Blend.